What's going on out there, Couz's Corner family? We are live. Not sure why, because there's absolutely nothing going on in college athletics today. It's been a dead day, hasn't it? Obviously, you know that's a bunch of BS. Man, there's a whole lot of stuff going on out there today. Storylines about meetings with the Big Ten and SEC leaders. You know, we've got the UNLV quarterback story that happened earlier this week. We've got the house settlement stuff going on. We've got conference expansion and realignment stuff going on out west like crazy. Man, there's so much to talk about. And we're going to try to touch on a lot of that in this show tonight. And in this show, which is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino and Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner Attorneys at Law, I want to thank them for sponsoring us. And real quick, before we dig into the meat and potatoes of the show, I want to give a shout out, an even bigger shout out to one of those sponsors. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians, because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up, and welcome into a live edition of Couz's Corner. Come on in, belly yourself up to the bar. Let me pour you out this shot of top-shelf college football content on tap tonight. Well, we're live tonight, but if you're watching the replay, it may be day for you. But we are going to talk about, like I mentioned in the opening, several topics, starting off the story that came out today by Ross Dellinger about Big Ten ADs and SEC ADs having a meeting that will include Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, the conference commissioners, about the future of college athletics. And no, the Big 12 and ACC were not invited. They are not part of the cool kids club, apparently. So let's talk about, well, first off, you know the backstory, right? Back, I guess, a year or so ago, there was, you know, the SEC and Big Ten announced that they were going to form this working group or whatever to try to figure out the future of college athletics, and they felt like it was on them to do so. And Sankey even claimed they were asked to do this. Not sure if I buy that or not. Not sure that the Big 12 and ACC appreciates being left out, but who knows? I'm not in the room. But a story came out by Ross Dellinger, and when I first planned to do this show, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to read the whole article because it can bore people. But then as I read through it, I'm getting ready to put my outline together. I'm thinking, man, there's a lot here. And there's some stuff I can react to as we go. So that's what I'm going to do. You guys can obviously stay busy in the chat. Real quick before we do read the article, I want to recognize some people that are in the chat already. John Christophic, UC Fez, and Bob Swanger, who is a VIP channel member. Bob, how you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us. If you're watching on Twitter, by the way, or X, I recommend after the show's over, you come over to my YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and be sure that you do not miss future live streams. And you can check out the cool thing about YouTube is you can check out my on-demand stuff. You don't have to wait for a live show. You can go check out the on-demand videos I've done already over there. Now, let's get to this article I was going to talk to you about. This article by Ross Dellinger. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you may have not. But we're going to read through this together. And then I'm going to react to it as we go. It says, SEC Big Ten officials to meet on CFP format, house case scheduling agreement by Ross Dellinger, senior college football reporter, and he's over at Yahoo Sports. Within Big Ten headquarters in the Chicago suburb this week, the industry's most powerful leaders gathered, the Division I conference commissioners. But next month in Nashville, Tennessee, perhaps an equally influential group convenes, Big Ten and SEC athletic directors. In what is viewed as a continuation of their announced partnership in February, the top school administrators from the two most powerful NCAA conferences are scheduled to jointly meet. According to those familiar with the plans, the meeting is a significant and historic occurrence, believed to be one of the few joint gatherings of athletic directors from two major conferences in NCAA history. Amid a transformational period within the industry, the meeting comes at a sensitive time within college sports, as the Big Ten and SEC have distanced themselves financially from the rest of the industry in a way that strikes fear for some in their coalescence. And I think for a lot of us fans in ACC and Big 12 country, some of us probably have that fear. And I'm sure some of the teams do, some of the leadership at some of the schools do as well. I would imagine. However, those briefed on the meeting do not expect impactful decisions to be made and believe this is to be only a next step in a partnership that the two conferences entered 6 months ago with the creation of a joint board. Athletic directors are expected to begin discussion about a range of topics that they have mostly so far kept within their individual leagues. Those topics include the House settlement case, a new third-party, not NCAA enforcement model, the future of the college football playoff format, and, most noteworthy of them all, a regular season and postseason scheduling arrangement. This is the one that really chaps my behind. And we'll talk more about it later. Commissioners of the leagues, SEC's Greg Sankey and Big Ten's Tony Petitti, are both expected to join the AD meeting as well as high-ranking conference staff members. From the outside, the scheduled meeting is perhaps more symbolic in nature than anything else. Two groups for years warring with one another, now gathering in person to tackle some of the most pressing issues within the industry. On the inside, the one-day session may produce steps forward on several key issues from a joint group of leaders who hold more authority than perhaps any other, as power shifts from the NCAA's age-old national governance model to its more prominent conferences. Now let's get to the scheduling agreement part. Most interesting among the expected topics is a football scheduling partnership for the regular season, as well as a reimagined non-playoff bowl lineup featuring arranged matchups between the leagues. Conference schedule agreements are not unprecedented. The SEC, for example, is part of the annual ACC-SEC basketball challenge. Such moves are expected. Now, so basically what we have, the SEC and the Big Ten are looking to look at potential football scheduling partnerships for the regular season and non-playoff bowls. So any bowl matchup out there that might feature an SEC and Big 12 team, or Big 10 and ACC team, or Big 10 and Big 12, or whatever, those could be gone. Are they really going to kick ACC and Big 12 teams out of their bowl games? Are they really that greedy? Do they care that little about other student athletes in this country? Do they actually want to do that? We've heard Greg Sankey talk about all the time how it's, he cares about the future of college sports. He cares about this, yada, yada, yada. He doesn't care about any, and I understand he works for the SEC, but there is also something called working for the greater good, and it doesn't appear that he's doing that. It doesn't appear that Tony Petitti's doing that. We've heard Sankey talk. We've heard reports about how Sankey got mad when they first were trying to do the college football playoff expansion a couple of years ago, and then the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 formed that alliance. We remember that, and blocked it. Guess who was sitting there on Greg Sankey's side during that whole thing and wanted the college football playoff expansion then, and wasn't part of that alliance? The Big 12, the commissioner at that time, Bob Bowlesby. So if the Big 12 stood by your side, Greg Sankey, during all that, and they were the ones agreeing with you during that process, Bob Bowlesby even got mad. He even got up from the table and left the meeting early. We remember that story. Some of you do. They were talking about the CFP. They couldn't get agreement in the room. Bob Bowlesby got up and left. Someone said the meeting's not over. He said, it is for me, and he got up and he walked out. Because the ACC, Pac-12, and Big Ten at the time did not want to expand the playoff. But Bowlesby and Sankey did. But yet, here we are with the SEC and the Big Ten trying to keep the Big 12 out, keeping the ACC out of their popular kids club or whatever you want to call it, shunning us. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm a little bit upset about this if you can't tell. Let's keep going. Such moves are expected to generate additional revenue to the leagues, presumably from television networks seeking matchups of the biggest brands in the sport. The two highest-rated college football games over the first 4 weeks of the season have been games between the two conferences. Texas-Michigan, which drew 9.19 million, and USC-LSU, which drew 8.2 million. Discussions are expected to go beyond the regular season with the possibility of what officials describe as an overhauled postseason. For those programs not advancing to the CFP, administrators are exploring ways to arrange more matchups to pair teams from the two leagues as opposed to their current bowl agreement pairings. The bowl agreements expire after the 25 season. All of it is an effort to generate untapped revenue at a time when schools are bracing to spend more than $20 million annually in an athlete revenue sharing concept tied to the House antitrust settlement. To that end, SEC school executives continue to hold deep discussions about adding a ninth conference game starting in 2026. The Big Ten already has 9. The conference is somewhat split on the concept, and a requirement for any ninth league game involves receiving extra revenue from ESPN, the league's media rights holder. Then it goes on to talk about the future CFP format. As part of the new CFP agreement, the Big Ten and SEC hold decision-making powers over a future format. Those decisions are expected to be made in consultation with ESPN and the other 2 power leagues. In the spring, FBS leaders struck an agreement with ESPN to extend the CFP contract for another 6 years through 2031. While the format was not finalized, certain protections were, including an automatic spot for the champion of the 4 power conferences and highest ranked group of 5 team, a 12 or 14 field, and qualification guarantees for independents like Notre Dame related to their place in the rankings. For 24 and 25, the format is set as a 5+7, 12-team model, which grants automatic qualifying spots to the 5 highest-ranked champions and 7 at-large spots to the next highest-ranked teams. However, the future format, starting in 26, is expected to be shaped by the 2 leagues. The deputies of the conferences, Kerry Kinney of the Big Ten and Charlie Hussey of the SEC, have been exploring not just a format, but a potential change in the selection process. With regards to the committee, multiple sources tell Yahoo Sports. During CFP negotiations in the spring, the Big Ten proposed a 14-team playoff featuring multiple automatic qualifiers for the power conferences. 3 each for the SEC and Big Ten, 2 each for the ACC and Big 12, 1 reserved for the best G5 champion, and 3 at-large spots. The 3-3-2-2-1 concept received backlash from leaders of the ACC and Big 12. I'm going to stop there a second. The way it's looking, these 2 conferences can basically do whatever they want to do. They don't have to include the Big 12 and ACC, it doesn't appear, if they don't choose to. And if they're offering to give the Big 12 and ACC two guaranteed spots in the CFP, if I'm those 2 leagues, I take that deal today. Because right now, you're not even guaranteed that. You're only guaranteed 1 spot. Now, you could say, yes, but Couz, there's less at-larges you can get. The Big 12 and Big ACC aren't going to get more than 1 at-large anyway, and we all know that. Maybe once in a blue moon, but it's not going to happen often. It's going to be the Big 12 champ, the ACC champ, and then a bunch of Big 10 and SEC schools for the most part, mainly SEC probably. Again, the ACC and Big 12 may be lucky to get 1 at-large, but it's doubtful because those 2 leagues are more evenly matched, and they're just going to beat each other up. So anyway, if I'm the Big 12 and ACC, I may rethink that. But let's keep going. In an interview with Yahoo Sports from Big Ten Football Media Days in July, Petitti suggested that such a model isn't off the table. Petitti said if leaders get the postseason right, his league and others could then have the ability to play stronger non-conference matchups. This is all connected, Petitti said. Look, there are differences between pro models and playoff formats and what's traditional in college sports, but there's a lot to be said about keeping teams alive late in the season to have a chance to compete. I don't think that's controversial. As far as the new enforcement and governance piece, it says as part of the House settlement, the NCAA and power conferences are creating a new enforcement entity to regulate the revenue sharing concept, as well as a new D1 governance model, 2 issues expected to be explored at next month's meeting. A new enforcement arm will feature a clearinghouse that will approve or reject agreements between athletes and third parties, so basically NIL deals, such as boosters or booster collectives, seeking to hire outside entities to oversee the management and enforcement systems, not the NCAA. Power conference officials have seen presentations from some of the world's largest professional service providers, such as PricewaterhouseCoopers. However, any new enforcement entity is subject to the approval of the House settlement. At a hearing September 5th, U.S. District Judge Claudia Wilkin, overseeing the case in California, did not grant approval of the settlement as she took exception to the provision in the settlement that regulates and limits booster payments. House plaintiff lawyers are expecting to file a brief by Thursday, which is today as I'm recording this, to clarify the provision. As for a new governance model, college leaders have been exploring the concept of again subdividing FBS D1 to grant more authority over off-field legislative matters to the power conferences in a long-expected and publicized move. So they're expecting the power conferences, which includes the Big 12 and ACC, to get even more power down the road to, kind of have more authority over in overseeing their conferences and overseeing the sports and how they are governed, basically, and some of the rules that would be outside of the NCAA's purview, apparently. And we're about to wrap this up. It says, however, in interviews over the past several months, Sankey and Petitti both strongly rebuke any notion that a new governance model and the creation of their joint advisory board is a move toward a breakaway from the college sports governing body. Big Ten and SEC remain prominent members of the NCAA, both in governance and national competition, they say. Their joint effort does not hold unilateral authority, and they will have no motivation to simply declare anything, Sankey said in the spring. That said, this in paragraph is really what made me want to read this whole thing. But it says, that said, many around college sports view the House case as the final wedge between the haves and have-nots, leading to what's often termed as the Great Split. Now, this Great Split is kind of, goes along with the thumbnail of this live stream here. The House settlement. The SEC and Big Ten are trying to leverage their power, their, position as the strongest team brands, whatever, to make even more money so that they can pay off whatever may come down the pipeline from this House settlement. But what irritates me is the schools in the ACC and Big 12 have to pay it off too. I understand that Sankey and Petitti don't work for the Big 12 and the ACC, but man, do you not want those universities and those athletic programs to prosper? Why are you trying to go out on your own and do this stuff and leave those conferences behind? I think it's, and heck, even the G5 conferences for that matter. I don't like it, man. And yes, I'm biased. I'm a fan of a Big 12 team. I understand that. But this to me is just ridiculous. There is no way, no reason the Big 12 and ACC should not be included in these discussions, in my opinion. If they're talking about the power conferences having even more autonomy, more authority, then include those two conferences. If they're able to keep their seat at the table in the CFP, then why can't they keep their seat at the table in everything else too? That's what I'd like to know. I don't understand. If you want to do your little bowl game deal or whatever, do that in separate meetings or whatever. I don't know. Again, I don't even agree with that. They're basically kicking the Big 12 and ACC aside and say, here, go fend for yourself. But just to be kind, just to act like we're being nice, we're going to let you have a seat at the table in the playoff. But you may only get one spot. I mean, that's basically what they're doing here. They're saying Big 12, ACC, we could go off and do our own thing. And we are on some things, but just to make you feel good and make it look like we care, we're going to let you keep a spot in the playoff. It's I don't know. I don't like it. I think it sucks. To be perfectly honest with you, I think it sucks. Let's get to some comments before we move on here. WVU Fan 13 says, "What's up, Couz?" He's also a paid VIP member. What's up, WVU Fan 13? Big 12 needs 2 12-team divisions, East and West. Mr. Monkey says he's listening, multitasking. Thank you for listening. WVU Fan 13 also says ACC Big 12 merger with Notre Dame. I'm going to drop a little teaser. I have a video I'm planning about that. WVU Fan 13 says that's what happens in the Big 12. We don't have 2 or 3 outstanding teams. We beat each other up. So you go to the SEC, it's going to be Georgia, Alabama consistently. Maybe Tennessee, right? Texas. Robert Perez, hello from Fresno. What's up? Jared Jones, who's an Ohio State fan, he doesn't even like it because Jared understands, man, that's what makes college sports so great. It's the local fan bases, man, that are passionate about their teams. I mean, us Big 12 fan bases, we're not as big. A lot of us aren't as big as some of the fan bases like the Ohio States. But I would put the Big 12 fan bases and even Big 12 programs up against the Indianas, the Purdues, the Rutgerses, the Minnesotas. Why do schools like West Virginia, Utah, Arizona State, Kansas State, just to name a few, why do those schools not deserve as much, even go to the ACC, Pitt, Virginia Tech? Why do those schools not deserve a seat at the table just as much as teams like Indiana, Purdue, and Rutgers? I don't understand it. I think the system is totally screwed up. It makes absolutely zero sense to me why the bottom feeders of those two power leagues, well, I might as well call it, a lot of people don't like the term power two, but my gosh, that's where we are. This right here is proof of it to me. The bottom feeders, what I'll call I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's the least valuable brands in those two conferences. There is no reason those schools should have a seat at the table, and the Big 12 and ACC team shouldn't. It makes no sense. Look, I understand Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Texas. I get that. Their fan bases are massive. They're what, they're pulling in 6, 7, 8, 9 million viewers a week. I get it. But Indiana, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland, Minnesota, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, are they pulling in that many viewers? They surely to goodness they're not. Kentucky? I don't know, man. It really irritates the snot out of me that we're going down this path. It really does. They're dropping conference games it looks like they're going to start dropping conference games. I just read today, I think it was we saw where Wake Forest canceled their game with Ole Miss. I saw that BYU and Ole Miss, I think, canceled games with one another. I think it was Ole Miss. Down the road, I forget what year it was. So we're already seeing where it's already starting. Neil Brown has talked in press conferences about, kind of hinted at least, says he was joking, but the Alabama series the Alabama home and home may go away with West Virginia. So it's already starting. Oakster's live in the house. Russell Snyder says, relax, fellas. The Big Ten and SEC only want the Orange Sugar Fiesta and Rose Bowls. That's it. They only want the 4 major ones. But aren't those going to be part of the playoff anyway? Bob Swanger, who's a Penn State fan, says he don't like it either. Jared says college football will never be better with 2 power conferences and leaving the rest behind. I don't understand the thinking. Cutting off half the country's interest. How is that remotely smart? Mr. Monkey says he formally requests a Couz Numbskull Power 2 rant show. That would be fun, actually. I need to hit him up and get him on here again. Yeah, and now, Jamie, if you were here when I read that article, that apparently the ACC is seriously considering going to 9 games, but they're wanting ESPN to pony up more money to do that. That's the thing. So anyway, that's kind of my rant, my thoughts on this whole, Big Ten, SEC getting together to have these meetings and maybe wanting to play each other in bowl games and potentially leaving the other two. Sankey swears up and down they're not trying to leave anybody out. But if you weren't, why would you have these meetings without them? That's, to me, that just reeks of hypocrisy. Big Ten, SEC, ESPN, Fox dictating everything is not good for the long-term health of college football. If we have, quote, the great split, the P2 will reap what they sow, in my opinion. And they might, Stephen, but how are they going to reap it? Because people are going to continue to watch it. They're going to continue to make money. I just don't see how it's going to hurt them any. I hate to say it. Robert Perez says, being in California, he found himself wanting to watch USC and Michigan, and he doesn't even like either one of them. Yeah. I mean, and who doesn't want to turn in and watch Alabama, Georgia? You know what I mean? Anybody who loves college football wants to watch that game, and there's nothing wrong with that. But people also want to watch Pitt, West Virginia sometimes. And I know the casual fan out there may not, but the fan bases of those teams do, and there's a lot of them. That game it was on ESPN2 and still eclipsed 1 million viewers. That's pretty good for an ESPN2 game. So had it been on one of the major networks, it probably would eclipse 2 million. And Mr. Monkey says he will not watch them. I don't watch them very often now. I'll be honest with you. I might watch the Alabama-Georgia game. I don't know yet. It's probably going to depend, but I'm going to watch the Big 12. I'm going to spend most of my Saturday watching the Big 12 games. If I'm blessed to be able to watch games on Saturday, which I hope to, then I plan on watching as many Big 12 games as I can because I want to support that conference, the conference my team's in. So the only way I know to support them is to watch the games. All right. Next, I'm going to switch gears a minute. You guys, some of those of you who are on Twitter may have seen me put out a tweet talking about this Pac-12 Mountain West situation, how I'm really not following it as closely as I do other conference realignment topics. And that's true for multiple reasons. I guess because it doesn't directly involve the Big 12, I'm less interested. 2, it's out west, right? So it's not as close to me. 3, it's in the middle of the season. I don't enjoy talking conference realignment as much during the season. I guess I get conference realignment fatigue a little bit. But it's a bye week right now for West Virginia. This story is not going away. It continues to get hotter and hotter, so it seems, by the day, and news keeps breaking by the day. So I decided to at least talk a little bit about it tonight on this show. So we're going to talk about it. Let's just start off, go through the timeline here. And I'm going strictly off memory here as I remember this. So you guys be patient with me. But it all started off with the announcement a couple weeks ago that Oregon State, Washington State, which is the Pac-12, basically, the only 2 teams left, went to the Mountain West. They poached Boise State. They poached Fresno State. They poached Colorado State. And they poached Colorado State, Fresno State, Boise State, San Diego State. They poached those 4 teams from the Mountain West Conference. Well, then all the reports were, UNLV was considered, Nevada, but they were kind of tied to Nevada. There was that talk. Then all of a sudden, the Pac's attention started shifting to the American Conference. And there were talks about USF. Memphis was kind of the linchpin in the whole thing. There was talks about UTSA. There were talks about Tulane. Those 4 schools possibly joining along with those 4 Mountain West schools to get them. That would have put them at 10 teams. Well, lo and behold, those 4 teams, surprisingly, turned down the opportunity to go to the Pac-12 because in their eyes, they just didn't see it being financially feasible. By the time they paid the AAC exit fees, which I think I read were around $25 million, the TV deal from the PAC, just, it's not even guaranteed. That they're basing it on projections right now. They don't even have anything set in stone. So they would be risking leaving their secured home in the American for an unknown deal in the PAC, plus have to pay the $25 million exit fees. And they just didn't think it was the right move. Now, we all know that they could be waiting around 2, hoping that the ACC implodes and they get a call to the ACC. There could be some of that as part of their thinking too. But at the end of the day, the primary reason, I think, was that it came down to financials. But that shocked a lot of people because the talk seemed to be that, hey, that was what was going to happen. It was almost, I think I even saw some tweets that it was pretty much a done deal, but it wasn't. Those 4 teams decided to stay put. So then the PAC turns their attention back to the Mountain West. They grab Utah State out of the Mountain West. Another Mountain West team leaves. So now we have 5 Mountain West teams plus Oregon State, Washington State to form the current Pac-12, 7 teams. They need 1 more team to be considered a conference and be eligible for the CFP and be eligible for other things per NCAA guidelines and per CFP guidelines for that matter. They need 1 more team. So they decide, let's try to get UNLV. Let's try to get Air Force out of the Mountain West. 2 more Mountain West teams. They're trying to cripple the Mountain West. Well, even before this, before the UNLV reports came out that the PAC was now suing the Mountain West for an agreement they had over a poaching fee. We all remember when the PAC and the Mountain West made that scheduling agreement. Well, as part of that agreement, apparently, the Mountain West said, you have to pay us, if you end up taking some of our teams, you have to pay us a fee. Well, the PAC agreed to that. They said, okay. They signed the dotted line. A few months later, they poached 4 of their teams. And now they're trying to sue to get out of that agreement. So it's a mess, basically. Well, anyway, let's go to today's news. UNLV and Air Force both decide to stay put in the Mountain West. And again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. First, let's go to Nicole Auerbach has been all over this story. So let's go to what she's been putting out there on X. All right, it says, let's go down here. She says, UNLV AD Eric Harper said the school's goal is still to join the power. This was, which I'll get to that in a minute. Let me go down here. All right, there are signing bonuses there. The Mountain West, the money they're scheduled to receive, assuming they win the lawsuit or it doesn't go through, the money they're scheduled to receive as a poaching fee from the PAC, they're splitting that up between their schools, right? Well, they decided as part of the negotiation for UNLV and Air Force to stay in the league, they're giving those two schools a greater share of that money. Air Force and UNLV are getting 24.5%. They're calling it a bonus, a signing bonus, but they're getting 24.5% of that poaching fee money, basically, to stay in the conference. Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, and Wyoming will receive 11.5%, and then Hawaii, who's only a partial member in football only, or at least in football, they're not in basketball, will receive 5%. So, and just to keep the Mountain West Conference alive, keep it breathing, the other 5 schools in that league, or 4.5 schools if you want to say so, agreed to this because they needed to keep that conference alive. So they decided to give Air Force and UNLV a greater share of the money. So UNLV and Air Force getting a greater share of that money, I think they get one lump sum of like $25 million, and then the rest of it's going to be paid out in smaller increments over a period of time, something like that. But I found that to be very interesting. Here is Air Force's announcement. It says, we will ascend together. Shows Air Force's, shows the teams that are in the Mountain West. They all signed an agreement, by the way. Nothing was binding until they signed, and they did. UNLV did the same thing. We will ascend together. She says the Mountain West announces that its 7 member institutions have signed a memorandum of understanding to remain in the league and to formally agree to execute a grant of media rights from the member institutions to the conference from July 1st, 26 through June 30th, 2032. The Mountain West announces that its 6 full-time members, including UNLV and Air Force, and football-only member Hawaii, have reaffirmed their commitment to the league by signing a memorandum of understanding. Here's the announcement by the Mountain West Conference. It says, in a demonstration of shared commitment and unity, the Mountain West announced today that 7 member institutions have signed a memorandum of understanding to remain in the league. In a landscape full of options and opportunities, these 7 institutions have made the important decision to continue together and exemplify the strong alignment and commitment to student athletes and community among these universities. These institutions in the Mountain West Conference have never been more committed to excellence in intercollegiate athletics, promoting the academic missions of the member institutions, and holding true to the Mountain West values of competitive excellence, academic achievement, integrity, relentless drive, and community and inclusion. Unified, our 7 institutions, the United States Air Force Academy, University of Hawaii, Manawa, University of Nevada, Reno, University of New Mexico, San Jose State University, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the University of Wyoming, will continue to focus on the student-athlete experience and weigh opportunities that will drive our strategic plans forward as a highly respected, best-in-class national athletics conference. So, now, here's the thing, though. The Mountain West, they also have to have 8 members. But it has to be 8 full-time members. So Hawaii doesn't count towards that. So they actually have to go out and get 2 more members. So now, look, reports are that they're talking to Texas State. So Texas State now may have options to join the Mountain West or the PAC. We've heard the Dakota schools be brought up. Gonzaga may even be in play for the PAC. Now we'll talk about that in a minute. But this story just keeps taking turn after turn, and things are changing almost by the minute. It's unreal. But I got to thinking back to the Gonzaga thing, and this could actually impact the Big 12, and here's how. Because during all this mess, one of the reports that probably got a little bit less attention than others was that the PAC was actually talking to Gonzaga, bringing them in as a potential member. Matter of fact, Brett McMurphy came out the other day and said Gonzaga would join Gonzaga was going to join the PAC. Now, that got rebutted by other members of the media, but then he went on to 365 Sports, defended his claim, and said, look, I never said when they were going to join. I didn't say it was going to be tomorrow or even next week or next year. But he said at some point, Gonzaga will be a member of the Pac-12. So, and we all know Brett Yormark had tried to get Gonzaga, or at least talk to Gonzaga about bringing him into the Big 12. We know his desire to make the Big 12 basketball brand even better than it is already, right? So, and Gonzaga could have been part of that vision for him. We've even I even saw a small snippet the other day that UConn may be in the conversation as a football-only member for the PAC, which I don't see that happening, but man, that'd be crazy, wouldn't it? All the way across the country, but heck, I mean, that's where we are now. That UConn could even be on the table. Man, I can see Brett Yormark now, man, he might even cry if they get UConn and Gonzaga. Yormark might have to curl up in the corner, man, because he wants those two schools bad. But, and he tried to get UConn just a few weeks ago. There were reports out that they were talking to UConn, but the Big 12 presidents weren't willing to do it because they just didn't feel like it was additive to the league. And I kind of agree with them, to be honest with you, at least now. But will these two schools, Gonzaga and UConn, them talking to the PAC or maybe other leagues, will that speed up or not speed up, but will it reinvigorate those conversations for the Big 12? Will they now decide, you know what, maybe we should bring these teams in just to keep them from going elsewhere? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all unravels. And something interesting today in the announcement made by UNLV's AD, or maybe it was a president, I can't remember. There's a very interesting comment in there. But here it is. It says UNLV officially signing. This is from Mick Akers, who covers UNLV. He says UNLV officially staying with Mountain West and will receive a lump sum of $10 to $14 million from the Mountain West Conference next year, and $1.5 to $1.8 million annually over 6 years, starting in 26. I don't know where I got the number $25 million from. Anyway, it's 10 to 14, and then 1.5 to 1.8 annually over 6 years. UNLV could also explore the future Power 4 conference membership without penalty. So that's part of the deal too. They want to be able to go openly talk to Power 4 conferences without being penalized or paying a fine or whatever. But here's the announcement. It says UNLV President Keith Whitfield and Director of Athletics Eric Harper announced Thursday that Rebel Athletics will extend its contract with the Mountain West Conference for 6 years from July 1st, 26 to June 30th, 2032. UNLV's existing contract with the league was scheduled to expire June 30th, 2026. According to a memorandum of understanding signed by President Whitfield, the Mountain West will pay an estimated lump sum of $10 to $14 million, 25. Okay, it's repeating the same thing. The new payments are on top of the current revenue streams from existing contracts and media assets. The current media deal expires in June 2026, and negotiations for a new media deal will begin in the near future. Here's the kicker. The university will also have the flexibility to explore future membership in an autonomous Power 4 conference without penalty should the opportunity become available. So does that mean that the UNLV has their eyes on the Big 12 down the road? We all know the Big 12. The Big 12 just had their football media days in Las Vegas last year. We know Brett Yormark loves the bright lights, loves the big cities, loves the glitz and glamour because he sees dollar signs. He sees marketing opportunity. Now, UNLV's not there yet. It's my understanding, and I don't know the details on this, but it's my understanding they're having financial issues right now. Their football program, though playing well now, historically has not been good. They're in a good stretch right now. The last 2 seasons have been good, but historically they are one of the worst programs in the country. So, they need to improve on that. They need to be more consistent. Their NIL apparently is not very good, which we'll talk about a story there in a minute. That came out. UNLV's been in the news all week. Who would have thought? And not all of it's been good, though. But anyway, their NIL apparently is not that great, even though they're in Las Vegas. A lot of people just assume, hey, man, they should have a lot of NIL money. But most of the people that live in Vegas aren't necessarily from Vegas. They're not necessarily locals, and they probably don't support the team. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting nugget about the Power 4 and them wanting to, and I would say Memphis probably has the same thought in mind over at the AAC. They don't want to they don't want to ruin their opportunity to get in a Power 4 conference down the road unless they know that the situation they're going to get in is a home run. And going from the American to this new PAC, which is basically just maybe a little bit better Group of 5 conference, but in Memphis' case, you have to increase your travel expenses and stuff. Is it really worth it to them? And they decided no. Now, for UNLV and Air Force, it wouldn't be a travel issue necessarily, but what it might be is, the TV revenue money is not guaranteed. They already have a secure conference in the Mountain West, and oh, by the way, we get this little signing bonus here from the poaching money that we get. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I don't think this is over with, but at the end of the day, man, why don't the Mountain West and PAC just merge and call it a day? I don't understand their stubbornness. I don't understand. I mean, that would be a really good league. That'd be a really good conference. I don't get it. And to me, the Pac-12 name alone is not enough to attract all these teams. You need money to go along with that brand. You need something more. You need exposure on television. There has to be something more than just the Pac-12 name. And I think the Pac-12 may have overestimated their value of their brand here. Without the schools, it's the schools that make up the brand, right? And without the USCs, the UCLAs, the Washingtons, the Oregons, the Colorados, the Arizonas, the Utahs, without those schools, Stanford and Cal's, without those schools, where's the brand recognition, right? Yes, they have Boise State now. Yes, they have San Diego State. They have Washington State and Oregon State. No disrespect to those schools, but if those schools were highly valuable, they would be in one of the Power 4 leagues already. That's the issue here with these teams getting cold feet to join the PAC. And I know a lot of people may disagree with that, but I think it's pretty obvious there. Let's get some more comments here. Thanks for everybody for jumping in. Let me see. What did I miss? All right, here we go. We see who Bob Swanger says that Jared Jones. I don't understand either. Bama Talk. What's up, man? And we're just talking a little bit about Pac-12, Mountain West, both trying to stay alive, taking each other's teams. Not much. WVU Fan 13 says, as much as it pains me to even think or say this, there has to be either government or NCAA stricter regulation or some type of regulation on how this has evolved for NIL and conference realignments. It has become an absolute madhouse, which will crash eventually. We have Stanley Metz Jr. in the house. He says, if they split, my interest in SEC and Big Ten will drop. Why would I care about watching them when teams like my ears, VT, and others like them would lose what little chance they have at ever getting a natty? Great point, man. Great point. And, Ed, you make a great point. Mr. Ed Waymer says Hawaii and Mountain West should just get together for all sports. Is it that the other 6 don't want to go to Hawaii for other sports? And, I've wondered the same thing yet. I've not seen anybody answer that question yet on social media. But that's a great question. I've wondered it myself. We got our first super chat of the show. I want to thank you, Mr. Zornell Malone. Thank you for the super chat, Zornell. He says, not Pac-12 conference, but didn't want bottom 4 university. Okay, I'm trying to understand what you mean there, Zornell. Can you don't have to put another super chat, but can you just clarify what you mean by didn't want bottom 4? What bottom 4 university? And again, don't feel the need to put another super chat. I'll look for your answer in the chat room there. But I really appreciate your donations, Zornell. It means a lot, man. Thank you for your generosity and for supporting the show here. All right. As we wait on Zornell to clarify his comment there, I want to talk a little bit about this UNLV quarterback and this whole NIL situation, this whole thing, it's crazy, to be honest with you. But basically, for those who may not know, most of you probably know by now, but for those who don't, UNLV starting, they're 4-0 on the season, and their starting quarterback has been, he's not throwing the ball very well, but he's been running the ball really, really well. And he's basically helped will them to some victories with his running ability. Oh, I see, Zornell. You're saying that not Pac-12 conference, but didn't want the ball. They didn't want the Pac-12. Didn't want those 4 schools, and that makes sense. Oh, that's why they didn't merge. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Zornell. I apologize for not understanding your comment there. But yeah, that makes sense. The Pac-12 doesn't want those 4 universities. I get it. Yeah, my internet connection is not great, Mr. Monkey says, so I apologize if it's freezing up. Hopefully the sound portion is not. If it is, I apologize. Is the sound okay, or is it just my face freezing? It's buffering? Really? Let me see if I can fix my internet here real quick. Hold on. It's showing I've got a good signal. I don't know what the problem is. We're having really bad weather here. That could be it. All right, I'm back. All right, I don't know what happened just now. My internet cut out for a second, completely cut out. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. It's purpose of what's what happens in live shows, right? You never know what's going to happen. But anyway, let's get back to it. Apologize for that. Like I said, we're getting rain off that storm. So, oh yeah, the UNLV quarterback. The UNLV quarterback is not happy because he claims he was promised money by an assistant coach when he was in the transfer portal. He claims he was promised $100,000 in NIL money, and he claims he's never received it. And he claims that they're not going to honor it, so he's transferring. Of course, the university, the NIL collective, everybody denies this. But let me see if I can find. But here's a summary of it that I wanted to show you all that I found by someone who covers the team, someone named Mike Grimala. Hope I'm pronouncing it right. He says, here's my understanding of the Matthew Sluka. Matthew Sluka is the quarterback's name at UNLV. Here's my understanding of the Matthew Sluka situation after speaking to some people involved. Per a source, when Sluka committed to UNLV, he did not have a registered agent. But he does now, by the way. That you need to know that for this story. He does have an agent now, but when he signed, he did not. His current NIL agent told ESPN that Sluka was, at that time, promised a significant NIL payout. Sources tell me no contract was ever signed, so this was a verbal agreement, I guess. Something relevant to keep in mind. Under Barry Odom's direction, that's the head coach at UNLV, all UNLV players receive the same NIL deal. He generally does not want individuals making more money than their teammates. Only Ricky White has gone outside that structure to secure a significant individual NIL deal. And Ricky White's their star wide receiver. With UNLV's hot start and Sluka's redshirt limit approaching, remember, after 4 games, he can redshirt, sit out the year, and then transfer and still be eligible. He had leverage to ask for more NIL money or what he believes he was promised. UNLV and Odom did not want to renegotiate. Sluka decides to transfer and get paid elsewhere. It is a shocking development, but this is college sports now. One source told me it's not uncommon now for players to want to renegotiate in season, and there is no NCAA regulation on any of the NIL stuff. It's professional sports. Matthew Sluka made a professional decision. He says, I'm at UNLV, and then he posts, I'm at UNLV practice now, waiting to see if Odom speaks to the media. I reached out to Sluka's current agent, but have not heard back yet. And of course, he never did hear from Odom. Sluka's agent has come out and spoke and said that he was promised this and that. And we've heard reports that Sluka's agent is not even registered to do business in the state of Nevada. So there's a lot about this story that doesn't make sense. One side is not telling us the full truth. Don't know who that is. So I'm not going to try to accuse anybody. All I know is this. It's a terrible situation. It sucks for those UNLV players. I hate it for his teammates. I feel there's a part of me that feels like he quit on his teammates. But at the same time, if he was indeed promised money and they did not follow through on that promise, I can also understand his side of the argument, because at the end of the day, it is now a business. Whether we like it or not, it is a business. And if somebody promises you something, if I'm working at my job and they promise me a pay raise or promise me a bonus and they don't give it to me, I'm going to be pissed, right? Now, this is a little different because he's got other people relying on him so heavily. Football's the ultimate team sport, and his teammates rely on him, especially when you're the quarterback of the team, right? So it's just a bad situation, man. And like I said, I hate it worse for his teammates more than anything. But there was one of the players actually put out a statement. I was trying to see if I could find it here. Oh, here's Sluka's actual announcement. It says, "I have decided to utilize my redshirt year and will not be playing in any additional games this season. I committed to UNLV based on certain representations that were made to me, which were not upheld after I enrolled. Despite discussions, it became clear that these commitments would not be fulfilled in the future. I wish my teammates the best of luck this season and hope for the continued success of the program." So, and apparently based on what the reports that are out there, it was assistant coach, offensive coordinator, Brendan Marion, who reportedly or allegedly made that promise. And here they are ranked in the top 25 for the first time in history. But one of his teammates came out and basically said, and I don't know, I can't remember the young man's name, but he put out "It's About Time" with a picture of the new starting quarterback. So sounds to me like his teammates are either bitter or they were glad to see him go anyway. Maybe he wasn't a great teammate. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that, but nonetheless, I hate it for his teammates. I hate it for his team, the UNLV fans. Hopefully this new quarterback can come in. Hopefully he's good. And they can continue winning football games. The UNLV defense is really what's been winning them games for the most part anyway. Their offense isn't very good, but what offense they did have was coming from him, running the football mainly. Like I said, I think he had completed less than 50% of his passes, but he was running the ball really well, and he was really, really hard. He didn't quit. He got paid $3,000 in poker chips. Yeah. Yeah, they did give him a $3,000 moving stipend, they said, but they said that's all that they had agreed to. So, Mr. Ed Waymer with a super chat. I appreciate the support, Ed. He says, "Who do you think PAC will add to get to 8+? Who will the Mountain West Conference add to get to 8+? Keep up the great work on your channel. After UH, rooting for WVU." Thank you, Mr. Ed Wayner. Just speculating here. I expect the PAC will add Texas, probably get Texas State maybe. I think they would like to get into the state of Texas for recruiting purposes and to get that market. Obviously the state of Texas is very passionate about football. And then probably, if I had to guess, that would put them at 8, right? I do think Gonzaga will join at some point as a basketball-only member, or maybe basketball and other sports, but they obviously don't have football. But they could join at a partial share, be a partial member, just like Hawaii is in the Mountain West. And then the Mountain West, I expect the Mountain West to probably get somebody like North Dakota State or not North Dakota State. I'm sorry, probably Montana maybe Montana or maybe North Dakota State. Maybe North Dakota State moves up from FCS. Maybe South Dakota State moves up. It's probably somebody like that. If I had to guess, would join the Mountain West Conference. It's probably going to be hard to poach anybody from another G5 at this point. When they see what's going on with your conference, I think that would be tough. Anyway, let's I don't know how many of you on here will be interested, but the Big 12 put out their basketball schedule today. And I was going to go, I know this is a football show, but it's also a Big 12 show. So I was going to talk about the Big 12 basketball schedule for 2024. Let me see. Let me see. It might be. See if there's a graphic I can show. I don't want to see a graphic. Let me look on their X account. See if they show anything on their X account. Big 12 conference. Yeah, it's probably too many games to try to put a graphic together. But yeah, they put the schedule out today. Each team has posted their own schedules. I'll plan on doing a video about West Virginia's schedule, but I'll save that for another day. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of get on here and talk about what's going on with with this, I guess, this new meeting going on with the Big Ten and as SEC commissioners and ADs, and then how it looks like they might be keeping the Big 12 and ACC out of their club. Might even schedule 9 playoff bowl games against each other. Again, might keep the Idaho. Oaksters Live, that's a good one. Idaho could be on the table, potentially. I hadn't thought. I completely forgot about Idaho. Idaho could potentially get into one of those leagues, probably more likely the Mountain West. But yeah, there's North Texas out there. There's Texas. There's obviously I said Texas State already. There's UTEP. UTEP is also an option. Yeah, I mean, there's UTEP. There's North Texas. There's Texas State. Who else is there out there? Like I said, there's the Dakotas schools. They would have to move up from FCS level, but that's probably doable. So yeah. Timothy Green in the house. He says, "Let's go Mountaineers." Timothy, thank you for stopping in, my man. I appreciate you. I know you've been going through some tough times lately. So it's good to see you back on here, my man. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, UTEP is under granted rights. That's true. UTEP, New Mexico State, for years tried to getting into the Mountain West Conference. Stephen F. Austin's another one that's out there. They're out of Texas as well. Man, there's a lot of schools in Texas. Peninsula P says Pitt just gave Holstein a new truck. Got to act preemptively with these players. Yeah, I mean, it's real, and I have no issue with it, to be honest. They do deserve to be paid. But I just hate it when these disagreements. And again, I don't know who I don't know which side's telling the whole story or which side's not telling us the truth. I don't know. It's a sucky situation. And if you to put yourself in Matthew Sluka's eyes, he probably knows deep down he's not going to play in the NFL. So this is his chance to make some money, some really good money while he's still in college. Before he gets out into the real, I mean, obviously he can have a good career once he graduates college and all that. But as far as football goes, he's got a chance to make some money, and he wants to take advantage of that. And I'm sure his agent was in his ear. He might have even had other schools, Power 4 schools, calling, wanting him. Who knows? But at the end of the day, he's going to redshirt. He's going to transfer at the end of the season, and he's going to probably go to either another Group of 5 school or maybe even a Power 4 school. Not sure how many Power 4 schools are going to want him. I mean, like I said, he's completing less than 50% of his passes. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Tell Texas State is on an island in the Sun Belt. Are they happy? Some on X are wanting into the Mountain West or PAC. Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. They are kind of on an island there in the Sun Belt Conference. So yeah, I think Texas State, to me, Texas State, I heard, they're even being courted by the American, I think, from what I understand. So they might have 3 options. And these teams are going to use that leverage, man. If they might even be able to get more money from the conferences they're in to stay, just like UNLV and Air Force just did. Mr. Ed Waymer says, if your Mark and Big 12 wanted to do an out-of-conference scheduling agreement, would it only be with ACC, or will they also do one with Mountain West or Pac-12 for one of the? Well, that's a good question, Ed. Coaches want to play at least one FCS opponent. One group, most coaches at least, want to play an FCS school out of conference, a group of 5 out of conference, and then one regional Power 5, one Power 4 out of conference, right? For example, next year, West Virginia plays Ohio University out of the MAC. That's their G5 opponent. They play an FCS, Robert Morris out of the FCS. I think it's Robert Morris. And then they play Pitt again as their regional Power 4 opponent. Now, in 2026, they're supposed to play Alabama, a Power 4, and they're supposed to play Alabama, a group of 5, and an FCS, right? I don't remember who those 2 are, but nonetheless, you see my point here. That's the trend, and that's what most teams are wanting to do. So I would say both. They could do both, potentially. Big 12 versus ACC football in Mexico. Hey, why not? Why not, man? Let's do it. I'd love a trip to Mexico. Would love a trip to Mexico. All right, listen. I'm going to call it a night. I've been on here for a little over an hour. I appreciate everybody coming on. Again, if you're watching on X, please come check me out on YouTube. You can check out my previous uploaded videos. Give another shout out to my channel sponsors, Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner Attorneys at Law. If you need a medical malpractice or personal injury attorney in West Virginia or even Virginia, go check them out at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. And again, BetUS Online Sportsbook and Casino. Take advantage of their offer. 150% sign-on bonus on your first deposit. 125% on your next 2. Please play responsibly, and you must be 18 years of age or older. Thanks again for hopping on. I appreciate all of you. And there's a schedule for 26. Thank you, WVU Fan 13. UT Martin and ECU are the other 2 schools. But anyway, thanks you all for hopping on. Thanks for the support. I hope the rest of your day and or night is top shelf. And Q Country Roads. Even though it's a bye week, I'm still going to Q it, baby. Chester Worrell, thank you for becoming a VIP member, my man. It means a lot. I appreciate the support. Hope you take advantage of the early videos I put out on occasion. Thank you for joining, man. I would put my coonskin hat on like I normally do, but I don't have it with me. I'm out in a different room in my house and don't have it with me. But thank you, Chester Worrell, for joining and becoming a VIP member. Thank you all for the support. Appreciate you. Have a good night.